Hey kids, it's Dean from Crypto the WonderDog Show. Do you guys like wine? Do you like drinking wine? Do you like going wine tasting? Man, I do love going to Temecula. I've been all over the world and drank wine from everywhere, but man, I got to tell you, I do love the reds from the Temecula Valley. You know, call me crazy, but I think it's the best on the planet. However, our buddy Jacob Nerdavid has started a company called VinX. And if you have ever been scammed with wine, maybe somebody's gone down and soaked the label off of a bottle of $2 Chuck, slapped the label from, I don't know, Old Ghost or something on it. It happens. It happens. Jacob has figured out a way to stop this dead in its tracks from tokenizing their wine. They follow a bottle of wine from inception all the way through. If you're a wine investor, this is the show for you. Stay tuned. You guys ready to start the show? All right, let's start the show. Okay, we are here with Jacob Nerdavid.
Nerdavid, yeah, you did it well.
Blockchain VinX. I'm a wine man myself. I like the reds, drier the better, and Cab is my favorite. And I was surprised to find out we've now got wine on the blockchain. Man, that makes me happy. Talk to me about how man Jacob brought wine to the blockchain.
Sure. So first of all, I've been a tech entrepreneur for a little over 20 years, and I've had my own winery for the past 7 years.
Where's that winery at?
Winery's in Israel, in the Galilee, northern Israel. And we actually focus not on cabs, but we focus on some more Mediterranean varietals.
All right.
And one of the biggest issues of wineries, which I knew about it, but I learned it once again from the inside, and there's nothing like doing it to really know it, is that there are three central problems that wineries face, or challenges, if you will. One is cash flow, the other is developing community, and the third is having some clarity about your business. And those are all linked. And what we're doing at VinX, which is a platform that we're creating to allow wineries all over the world, there are tens of thousands of boutique wineries all over the world, to allow wineries literally at the click of a button to pre-sell their wine just after harvest through what we call tokenizing futures. So wine futures is a tradition. Have you ever heard about wine futures?
I have not. I didn't know you could trade on wine.
So yeah, you can just type wine futures into Google or go to wine.com, and you'll see that there are wine futures already. They've been around for hundreds of years for a very, very select group of Bordeaux wineries, the Grand Cru wineries, Saint-Emilion, Bordeaux wineries. And that's more about those features are less about cash flow these days for the wineries, but hundreds of years ago they were. And that's how they started out. They had to finance the establishment of those large estate wineries. Today, that market is totally controlled by merchants. You can't directly buy a wine future from those Grand Cru wineries. And those merchants then mark it up and then pass it on eventually to consumers. So you can buy the wine futures.
Yeah.
But it's a very small market, very closed. So what we're doing is democratizing that concept, and we're saying, hey, if there's wine that you know that you like, that you love to buy, wouldn't it be exciting to say, we're going to connect you directly to the winery. You could buy it, say, a year and a half in advance, become part of the winemaking experience, get the wine when it's bottled, obviously, and you're going to get a discount somewhere close to their wholesale pricing, which you as a consumer don't have access to today.
No, I don't. No.
So you're talking about a savings to the consumers of anywhere from 25 to 50% off the retail price of wine. The wineries benefit hugely because they get what they would eventually get 2 years later when they would start to monetize it. They get it 2 years, so they're getting the cost of money.
Which means the cash flow comes in.
Cash flow, much, much better. And they're getting a direct connection to you, the person that loves their wine. Now, in the interim, after you buy the future to when the wine is bottled and you take physical possession of the wine, we're also creating a distributed exchange because these wine futures at the outset are tokenized. So you're going to be able to trade those wine futures on an exchange with other wine lovers. let's say 6 months down the line, you say, you know what, I bought a lot of I'll just tout my own winery for a minute, Jezreel Valley Winery. I bought a lot of Jezreel Argaman 2017. I love it, but I'd like to diversify my portfolio a little bit. You can go onto the platform, offer your futures for sale or for barter, and buy some other futures from some other winery.
And is this common knowledge between the wineries that you can?
No, we're just literally, this is our coming out party, if you will, today. So it's good to meet you. We've been working on the concept for the past roughly 6 months, both on the technical side, figuring out the right way to do it, and business model and conceptual and so on. And we've been consulting with a small group of wineries around the world. We have, like, in our sort of core advisory board, wineries in Italy, in France, California, Israel, all the major wine regions. Israel's not one of the major, but I'm Israeli, so I'm pushing it. I'm pushing it. Pushing it anyway. And we have on our advisory board some people who have decades of experience in the wine business, in the global wine business, and particularly in the area of how do we increase direct-to-consumer and how do we wipe out fraud. So the last thing I wanted to bring up to you is fraud. People don't like to talk about it, but fraud in kind of good to great wine is somewhere like around 15 to 20% of the market is counterfeit wine. And
counterfeit,
and everyone's nervous to talk about it.
And this isn't something you buy in the store. This is something that
sometimes wine that you buy in the store is counterfeit wine.
Oh my God! I did not know that.
Before something like blockchain, there was very little way technologically to verify cheaply that the wine you're buying is actually the wine you think you're buying, because somebody could easily. I don't want to promote people to do this, but you could easily go to like an Indigo printer, print up labels, directly copied labels, print up labels. It doesn't take a lot.
Because all the bottles
wine.
Look alike.
It doesn't take a lot to counterfeit wine. Let me just say. And
wow.
So it actually was a real problem. People in the industry know about it, but they just don't know what to do about it. Now, in the super high end, what's called investment grade wine, there people have long known that it's a problem. And in fact, there's been some documentaries over the past 5 years about some high-profile cases where people were arrested for promoting literally hundreds of millions of dollars worth of counterfeit wine.
Wow.
So, but imagine if you're involved with the winery from the time the wine is literally in the barrel, so you tracking that constantly from when then it gets bottled, cased, and leaves the winery, and you are tracking all of those bottles and cases. You know exactly the provenance of that wine.
Yeah, you know where to keep your eye on it.
Yeah, so we believe that's really part of the future is when you connect wineries directly with consumers, you get an increase in trust, you get a decrease in the price to the consumers, an increase in cash flow to the wineries, and community for the wineries because they're in direct contact now with their consumers. And overall, the experience is much more positive for everyone, because now everybody's incentivized to kind of be in touch with the other person, and we have the tools today that, if you said 10 years ago to your average winemaker, hey, do me a favor, once a month, give me a video update on what's going on with the wine in the winery, it would have been like a massive production.
Yeah.
I mean, they
didn't have iPhones back then.
I mean, you're in the business, right? You do a podcast, you do. If today, if you say to your average winemaker, do me a favor, take out your iPhone, walk around the winery for 1 minute, give me raw footage. Just for a minute, once a month, what's going on? Boom, press upload.
Yeah.
So that's priceless content, which now there's going to be an incentive for them to send out because there are going to be people who actually are bought in to the wine already. So it's not just kind of sending it out into the void. So we think platforms like ours will really positively disrupt what's at least a $200 billion a year market in terms of the global wine industry. Global wine industry is actually bigger. It's about over $300 billion and growing every year.
Wow.
But part of that is like super cheap wine, and there's very little growth in that area.
The $2 chucks.
Yeah, there's no growth. Yeah, there's no growth in that business. No. But in the kind of $10 a bottle and up, that's where all the growth is. And today, people want to know where this is from. Where's this wine from? And they want to know more of a story about it.
And I suppose that if this is being verified, then, like you were saying, the guys that are doing this for an investment, that increases the value.
Sure.
Now you absolutely know this is real wine. This didn't come from a $2 chuck with a guy with an Epson and a Photoshop.
Filling up bottles in the back. Yeah. So I've actually seen people do that. But so we can talk about that at a different time. But yeah, for totally sure. We do expect there two communities, and there's an overlap, exactly as you said, and you host a show about crypto. A lot of people said to me when we were first kind of percolating this concept over the past 6-7 months, they said, okay, but there's crypto people and there's wine people. It's not the same people. I said, no, what are you talking about? Crypto people drink wine, and wine people like crypto.
I like crypto, I like wine.
Of course. So do I. So,
yes.
So, and that's why I asked today at the session, how many people here love good wine? Everybody raised their hand.
Right. Who doesn't?
So I see that as a total overlap. And so a lot of people will come to the platform, and we've gained a lot of interest already, who are going to do it out of half speculation, half because they love wine. And it's much more fun to speculate about something that you love than just, something that you have no concept of what it actually does. So there will be some people who will come and will speculate. And in the time between the wine future, and to make a good to great bottle of wine usually takes about 2+ years. I mean, you don't release the bottle for about 2+ years. So the wineries will be able to come out with a wine future, which gets tokenized right after harvest. So you know that the grapes are in there, the wine's being made. So there's no harvest risk.
Okay.
It's already there.
Yeah.
And then that will be at a fixed price for a very limited period of time. And then after that, there will be speculation. People who will be coming in, coming out, trading, and so on. And we expect that to happen. And I think that's good for everybody. Keeps everybody on their toes. And look, if my winery, after we released a certain wine, we get some 90+ ratings from Wine Enthusiast or Wine Advocate or so on. So then the whole kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I was looking for a fancy word of saying this, but the reputation of the winery kind of goes up, right? And so often people say, oh wow, look at that, they're 90. Their previous vintage got all 93, 94, 95.
So more than likely,
maybe I should be buying in.
More than likely,
the price can go up. Now remember, as opposed to some other things, you've got a real asset at the end of the day. So at the end of this future period, there's a real bottle of wine. So worst case, you get a good bottle of wine.
How do you get these wine? How do you get the wine?
So at the end of the future period, you get a notification. Whoever's holding the token at that point will get a notification saying, "Hey, time's up. There's a bottle of wine. Where do you want it to be delivered to? Because the price of the future will include shipment to a certain
shipping's included.
To a certain set of countries. That's the other thing. Because why do the wineries need a platform like ours? None of this is stuff that they would do. Any winery would do on its own, even the bigger wineries. It's just not in their zone. It's not what they think about. It's not what they're focused on.
They're making wine.
So they're making good wine. Let them focus on that. I mean, I know with my own winery, every time I come with my kind of crazy ideas over the past 7 years, they're like, get away. We're trying to make good wine here. Like
we're squashing grapes, man.
Leave us alone. So we did an Indiegogo campaign for my own winery, which really was part of the inspiration for this, and I saw that it works. People are hungry for the connection.
Yeah.
But in terms of the logistics, that's the other piece, is that you have to take care of the logistics. Wineries can't be involved in that. They don't want to be bothered with that. No. It's kind of the headache. So we have to take care of that as well. So you get a notification at the end of the future period. Let us know where you want to ship the case of wine. The minimum for a future is a case of wine. Where do you want us to ship your case of wine to? At that point, you can say, I don't want the wine. I'll just try and sell this as now a finished product, and that's going to be an extension of what we get into, is allow you to try and sell finished product. Or another line of business for us is, hey, I would love this wine, cellar it for me. And we have back-to-back relationships with multi-point cellaring, and we'll just cellar it for you and keep it until you want it. Obviously, there'll be some small additional storage charge.
Yeah, you charge for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So, how did you get into wine? What was?
So I got into wine because as a kid, I grew up mainly in the States, but also spent time in Israel as a kid, and I've lived in Israel full time for the past 25 years. But in both of those places, wine plays a big role. But I saw the wine being used, especially in sacramental purposes, as like terrible, like undrinkable cough syrup. And I was like, this is impossible. This is the wine that's been talked about for thousands.
Manischewitz that makes it smell.
I didn't want to say it, but yeah. The company that's done more to harm the wine industry. And I just couldn't figure
so many 15-year-olds to the wine table, too.
But but I couldn't figure. So I began my own kind of journey when I started traveling around the world to discover wine, and I discovered wine. Good and great wine.
Yeah.
And then I started buying wine, for my own collection, and I had a dream of opening up a winery. And about 7 years ago, in discussion with a friend of mine, he said, stop with the dream. You're an entrepreneur. Like, get off your saying Yiddish tuchus, get off your butt, and let's do it. And so he was actually very into wine himself, and he was looking for a new career. So he became the full-time winemaker of the winery that we established. And I had all of these crazy ideas 7 years ago as to how the wine industry should work.
Yeah.
And I came into it and I was like, we're going to sell all of our wine direct to consumer and da-da-da-da-da-da. And you know what? I found so many psychological barriers and then financial barriers to be able to do that. And then you have distributors who have buying power, and they walk along and they say, okay, I'll take 5,000 cases, I'll take 10,000 cases. And it's almost irresistible. It's like a drug dealer.
Yeah.
They're standing there with a check in hand, I'll take 5,000 cases. So you do it, even though you're only getting...
Not quite as much as you wanted, but...
Well, even though you're getting, and this is people don't realize about the unit economics of wine, when you buy a bottle of our wine in a store in New York, and with my other hat on, I have to promote my own wine. So you can buy Jezreel Valley Winery wine in New York, and in LA, we're here at Costco. When you buy a bottle of wine at a store in New York or LA for, let's say, $30 of our kind of flagship red blend, we get $10. And I'm not afraid to expose that, right? That's just the reality of the wine industry. It's nothing different about us. Most wineries, especially in international distribution, are not getting more than somewhere between a third to at most 50% if they're like really good from that retail price. Now you could say that about a lot of products, that the retail price is obviously an inflated version because there's a distribution cycle. The difference about wine is that it takes us about 2.5 years to get that bottle into the hands of the average consumer.
So it's gone through a lot of hands. It's been a lot of storage,
a lot of time, a lot of financial risk for the winery. 2.5 years. If things go well and I want to make more wine to meet demand, I've got to be planning way ahead of demand because it takes me another 2.5 years. So cash flow, especially for a winery that wants to be growing, is a disaster. And then cash flow without clarity of knowing, well, do I have any real buyers for this? Yeah. I can drink a lot of wine, but I don't need 80,000 bottles of wine to drink. So these are just really big challenges in the boutique wine industry. And I think with a platform like ours, we do two things. One, we promote the wineries themselves, and that's important to say as well because there are a few other good ventures out there that have started up over the past couple of years, not blockchain related, but in wine related, that are tackling the unit economics of the wine industry. But the way they're doing it is by not promoting wineries. They're doing it by essentially private labeling wine and selling it for much cheaper direct to consumer.
They're buying the grapes.
They're buying finished product usually, or getting in at some point. They're getting in at some point in there, but private labeling wine, and it's great, and they should continue doing what they're doing. There's some great companies doing that.
Because not everybody can afford a $100 bottle of wine.
But also not promoting the winery names. In other words, they're promoting their name.
Yeah.
What we're doing is promoting the wineries and giving the wineries tools to have a better business and be more successful, and for the consumers to have a better connection with the winery.
And I don't know how it is in Israel, but like in Temecula or up north here in Southern California or Northern California, they have tasting rooms. People will come through and they charge you, 10, 20, 30,
sure.
$40 for tastings. Do you guys do that over there?
Yeah, sure, we do that.
Okay.
And you get wineries get some direct-to-consumer traffic from that, obviously. And wine tourism grows every year.
Is a whole wine like I don't know how it is, but have you ever been to Temecula?
Yeah.
Okay, so Temecula, they got that big long road there that's got wineries on both sides. So the 10,000 wineries all the way down the road. You could spend 2 weeks, wouldn't taste the same wine.
Right. So in most wine regions around the world, you're going to have that, and people are doing that more and more. Especially wine lovers are going on wine tourism. Wine tourism is more of a thing than it was 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Thank God. And we get a steady, in my own winery as well, we get a steady stream of visitors. And that's great. And some of them will buy a few bottles at the winery. The trick is that when they're leaving the winery, so what do? Maybe you sign them up for like a newsletter,
Wine
and then
club.
you try and sell them in a wine club or whatever. But they don't quite get it, and it's not engaging enough. With an offering like this, to follow up with, get an email from them, and then follow up and say, hey, harvest is coming. You could buy a wine future. You're going to get a discount, a really good discount, if you buy in. You basically become a partner to this wine. That's a much more interesting offering for the consumer than just to say, hey, we've bottled the wine, and you can get 5% off if you buy it like us. And why can they not do more than 5% off or 10% off for these wine clubs? Because they're selling wine in stores, and people aren't idiots. They look at the price, right, these days, right?
Yeah.
They look at the price, and if it's too big of a price, so the wine stores don't want that to be happening. So you can't sell bottled wine at your winery for a very different price than you sell it in stores. Even though when you sell it in the store, you're only making, around 50% of what you sell it in the store if you sell it in the winery.
Yeah.
So you have to keep your prices at the winery high.
They do.
Right.
Yes.
But here you have something that you can be offering which is not competitive to the bottled product that's in the stores or the bottled product that you have at the winery. You're saying, hey, become a financial partner to the growth of the winery. So it doesn't really affect the current distribution system.
Yeah.
Over time, we believe this will become another major way that people buy wine. You will always have the need for that bottle of wine tonight, to go to
yes.
that dinner or whatever. That'll remain.
Got
So
the Joneses
wine-
coming over.
Yeah. So
Bob likes that.
the oh my God, I need a bottle of wine for tonight. will remain.
Yeah.
So there'll be wine stores, and I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah.
But more and more and more, like with many other products, today, in fact, less than 4% of wine gets sold online globally.
Less than 4%.
Less than 4%.
Wow.
So it's one of these industries that just hasn't yet gone through that sort of internet process or web-enabled process, which is going to happen in some way, shape, or form. We think what better way to happen than, again, to connect wineries with consumers in a more direct way.
And this will prevent, your little Johnny and his other 14-year-old friends from grabbing Dad's credit card and loading it up and
that too. But and then on the higher end, again, this issue of fraud and so on. Once you have something, registered on blockchain, and you've tokenized and so on, then, and I don't want to get too tech, but you create a system where you really are verifying the authenticity of what somebody's getting, and someone can look back directly and say, okay, here's kind of the journey of this wine. Here's when it, was bottled. We know that because we're working with the winery. Here's when it was bottled. Here's where it's been. You know everything about it.
Now, when you have this bottle of wine, how are you proving that is actually that bottle of wine?
Right. So thank God we're not the only people worried about this that are out there. And there are some great projects out there that are using a variety of technologies to create data points around bottles of wine. There's a few out there that have been prototyped already and that people are starting to play around with. But it's everything from using about 60 different data points of the bottle itself to putting RFID tags on the cases, to even, and I just saw something this morning about putting like a tiny little chip in the actual capsule of the wine bottle.
In the glass? Or?
No, like in the covering, what's called the capsule, the thing that goes around the cork. Obviously any of these solutions have to come way down in price to be able to be used in critical mass. So they can't be dollars per bottle. They have to be, cents per bottle, and that's happening. And then, couple that together with the world of IoT, with the Internet of Things. And just imagine if you are getting your wine today and you could see, and you ordered it, you're in California, and you ordered this from, let's say, a winery in Italy, and you could see everything about this wine from the time it was in the barrel to the bottle to how it was shipped, what was the temperature, on the boat on the way over,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. It's just a world of information that's just kind of waiting there for people to deliver.
Well, it sounds like a wealth of information, especially if you have a little wine club and you could put up a little slideshow of, hey, look at my bottle of wine. This is when it was born.
For sure.
There it is,
And also
6 years later.
Yeah, and then also the content that'll be available, I think will be really exciting to people as well. And if you look at other crowdfunding platforms that we've become familiar with over the years, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, those are great. Usually they're kind of, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Like there's one product from that company.
Yep.
They make a lot of noise to get people excited about their thing, and then that's it, right? Here you have this ongoing crowdfunding of wine.
More wine every year.
Ongoing crowdfunding wine every year, getting more and more people involved.
Yeah.
You can look back, that same winery, you see the history of the winery, and again, the crowd becomes the real financial and business partner of the winery.
Yeah.
In this way.
People like to get involved.
Yeah.
They want to feel part of it.
Yeah. How do you mostly buy your wine?
I mostly buy my wine when I go to the wineries in Temecula. For some reason, I've been all around the world, and I absolutely love Temecula wines. I think by far, that's just my taste, though. I mean, it's not everybody's taste. Temecula would be in every shelf, but I love the dryness of the cabs out there, and they all have the same, very similar taste. Every winery you go to,
Right.
if you have a cab, it's all going to taste the same. But I typically go out to the wineries, pick it up. And there's times that we get busy and we can't go out there, and you can't buy Temecula wines anywhere really, other than if you're Temecula. But primarily, I go out there. We have Bevmo, we have Total Wine and More.
Sure.
Going there. But most of those times I'm buying hard alcohol or something like that. I don't want to go in there and get gouged for and they don't have the selection that I mean, they say the
Right.
gigantic selection, but I got my own taste.
And you're right, and I think that's exactly it in terms of people's tastes and the focus on the consumer, which is store shelves are very limited.
Yeah.
Right? When you go into a wine store, take Total Wine for example.
Yeah.
I know that we just got into about 30 with my own wine. We got into about 30 Total Wines right
Wow.
now,
Okay.
so which is great. But I also know that the store shelf is limited.
Yes.
So the consumer walking into a wine shop is basically that's it. That's what they're going to see, and it's a very one-dimensional experience. They're basically seeing labels, and maybe there's the guy at the wine
and
shop.
you get blind after a while. If you look for so many labels, they all start blending together,
Right.
and forget it. Just grab one.
Yeah, and part of the art, by the way, of selling wine, what I always say, making wine is a project of passion and love and so on. Selling wine is a business. So, selling wine as a business means, I've got to think about when my wine bottle's on the shelf, is it going to stand out? Are people going to notice it? All that stuff. But that's it. It's a very one-dimensional experience. And maybe the guy in the wine shop, usually a guy, sometimes a gal, but usually a guy,
Yep.
will know something.
Yeah.
But maybe not. Will know something. But he's not going to remember your specific,
No.
So that's it. That's our experience today. But if we can take this experience online and really develop, like, what kind of wines do you really like, and match you up and say, hey, maybe try some of these wines from Italy, maybe try some of these wines from France, from Chile, from wherever, from Israel. All of a sudden, the whole world is your wine store.
Yes.
And you're really looking at...
Making the world smaller.
Yeah, we're looking at Wine Brother. And if there's somebody who's saying, trust us, and again...
Become an authority.
We're using modern technology, trust us, you're gonna get the wine.
Yeah.
You're going to redeem this, wine future at the end of its period, and you're going to get your wine. Later on, we'll also deal in bottled wine as well. But we specifically want to start with this because it's important to kind of figure out where to get involved and where the greatest needs are.
Yeah.
And I think even most excitement is to make people part of the process. And so you're going to be able to order wine from anywhere in the world. And then the exchange part is that, once you've bought these wine futures, if for whatever reason, and with all pun intended, you need liquidity, you'll be able to try and sell the futures. If all goes well, they'll appreciate in value.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to sell them for more. And if you think about the time value of money and how much money you make on your money, just to be really simple, if you're buying a product which you think you're going to want, or somebody else definitely will want, a real product, a real asset, and you're buying it at point X in time, and a year and a half later, I can show you that the retail price of that will be 100% more than what you paid for it, then, money on money, you're making a lot of money on your money. Whether you drink that bottle of wine or sell it to somebody else. And there aren't that many places to make, 20% a year on your, or 50% a year on your money with a product which is real. And especially if you came into it because you like wine, that you can, if you buy a pork belly commodity future, I don't know if you really want those pork bellies.
No, you don't want them stacking them in your apartment. No,
I don't think you want to take delivery of those pork bellies.
No, you don't. No.
Maybe the wheat, I don't know, but the pork bellies probably not. So most commodities markets exist because obviously there's a real need for the underlying asset, for the commodity. But most of them have become so disaggregated and so disintermediated from the people who actually use the commodity that it becomes just a financial vehicle.
It's just
here we're talking about people who really do want this product at the end of the day. So we think there'll be a healthy mix of both crypto folk who like the concept of tokenizing, like the concept of speculating and being able to trade and so on and so forth. But also who like wine. Yeah. So their worst case scenario is they'll get a bottle of wine.
You get a bottle of wine out of it. Yeah.
So,
wow. All right. Well, Jacob, it was great talking to you. And
sure.
And the website. You have
yes, sure. Thank you.
Website. Yes.
I need to start promoting this better. Yeah. So the website is vinx vinx.wine.
.wine.
.wine.
Right.
vinx.wine. .com is actually was taken by a wine fund which already existed.
All right.
But I just love the name Vinx, so we're gonna stick with it. So it's vinx.wine, and you can go there and sign up for more information and so on. We are starting in terms of ICO type language.
Yes. When's the ICO dropping?
Yeah. So we're just launching literally now a very kind of soft launch of the pre-sale of the ICO. So people who want to sign up, get more information, can find out more information about the pre-sale, which will be obviously at some discount to the crowd sale itself. The crowd sale itself will probably take place sometime next quarter.
Okay. Wonderful. All right, Jacob, great talking to you.
Yeah.
Looking forward to having some of this wine from Israel. I've never had it.
Okay.
And I'm sure you'll be able to hook me up with that,
right? We'll see if we can compete with your local taste.
With my Temecula wines, yeah. It's a hard sell. All right.
Today's show is sponsored by Beat Charity. World charity in one place. Donate to your favorite charity. Fully transparent, easy access. BeCharity.io. Check out BeCharity.io today and tell them that good old Crypto the WonderDog sent you.